The next day at school ended up being more embarrassing than anything else. There were a few other people that hadn't skipped, maybe a total of 10 of us, but the looks they shot me made it clear that my dad was the reason they were there. Kimber, great friend that she was, happily went to her classes like it was a normal day. Kyle attended all of my classes with me. The teachers, who had been looking forward to an easy day, couldn't have cared less. Just before lunch, an officer came around to all of the classrooms and asked for copies of the attendance sheet. Dad really wasn't kidding about cracking down this year. I was going to get shit from people all summer long. At lunch, Kyle and I went to my car to smoke. Usually, we were hidden by dozens of large pickup trucks, but today, we were out in the open and vulnerable. I moved the car back to a shady corner of the parking lot, and Kyle pulled out his bowl. "Did you text Kimber?" I texted him while we hit it. "Yep," he said through tight lips as he let the smoke sit in his lungs and then blew it out all over my dashboard. "She went home around 4th period. She said her mom called her and she was going home to take care of her." "I don't know, man. Doesn't her mom hate you?" I asked, taking my turn with the bowl. "Yeah, I mean, that's a fairly new development ever since Kimber and I started dating, but I'm pretty sure she'd always hated me and she just hid it better before. Now that she's all depressed and whatever, she doesn't give a shit." It was hard to picture anyone hating Kyle. Why can't Kimber's dad take care of her? I don't know. I hit the pipe again. "Hey man, let's not even go back today," Kyle said. "You think?" "Yeah. I mean, you put in 4 periods. You've been a good son. And Officer Dick Ass already came around and collected the attendance sheets." "Dick Ass? Really? You're better than that, man. Officer Ass Dick? You're fucking baked, Kyle. Seriously, man, let's go." I thought about it a second. Kyle was right. I'd done my duty as a son, and if I left now, I'd have enough time to go to GameStop before work. Fuck it. I turned on the ignition. Kyle sat up in his chair and rolled down the window to clear out the smoke. "Hey man, can you drop me by Kimber's?" "Sure, but how are you gonna get home?" "Can you come get me after work?" "What if her mom throws you out again?" Kyle rolled his eyes. "That was one time. Why can't I just drop you off at home and you can take your own car? It needs new tires." New tires, of course. What Kyle really meant was that his endurance had lapsed and that he really didn't have any money for gas anyway. He'd bought the car last summer after working double shifts at the convenience store for half a year. It was an okay car, newer, but I knew he only wanted it to impress Kimber, something he vehemently denied. Had it worked? Not in my opinion. They'd started dating in the fall, and Kyle quit his job to spend more time with her. Kimber didn't seem like the kind of girl to be impressed by a Pontiac Bonneville, but Kyle was convinced that that was how he'd won her over. I was sure all the car had really done was give him the confidence to ask her out. And now that this part in the romance ended, the car sat in the garage of the Landy home collecting dust instead of memories. GameStop didn't have what I wanted, and neither did Drisking Games and Media. Since I had nothing else to do, I decided to show up to work early and hope that Meera would let me leave early too. I parked in front and walked in the door, unsurprised to see no one at the front counter. There was only 3 of us that worked at the shop, and sadly, I never got to see the other girl, Emmeline, who worked on the days I didn't. This was disappointing to me, since she was half the reason I'd applied there in the first place. I went into the back to tell Meera I was there and found her slumped over her desk on a pile of receipts and paperwork. This wasn't an unusual way to find Meera, but something seemed different today. I immediately felt a disturbance in the force, but before I could run away, she turned toward me, and I saw I was right to flee. Meera was crying. Are you, I'm sorry, she said quickly, wiping her eyes. Is it 4 already? No, it's 2:15. I just thought maybe if I came in early. Oh, right, it's your ditch day. Meera wiped her eyes only to have them fill with tears again. I don't understand, Sam. This store has been operating in the red ever since I was hired to manage it. What am I doing wrong? I don't know, I offered lamely, the instinct to escape never stronger. No one comes in here, ever, and Mr. Prescott refuses to let me put signs up to advertise. He says they're unsightly, but how does he expect me to pull in business? I need this job, Sam. God, I must have looked like a frightened deer, because when Meera glanced over at me, she seemed to subtly collect herself. Go ahead and go out to the front. I'll do your time card. She didn't have to tell me twice. I really liked Meera and hated seeing her like this. The front didn't end up being much better. I could hear Meera crying over the store's dated music track. Her sobs went from painfully audible to muffled whimpers. After half an hour, I decided I had to do something. Since I was entirely unequipped to deal with an adult woman's emotions, I decided to call Meera's husband, Owen. He was thankfully at home and answered on the second ring. "I'll be right there." I breathed a sigh of relief when I heard a car pull up outside and saw the tall, girthy Owen get out of it. He walked in during a quiet lull in his wife's break room. "I'm sorry to call you at home, Mr. Daly. I just didn't know what else to do." "That's okay, Sam. You did the right thing." He looked tired, and I could tell the situation wasn't new to him. "Is she okay? I mean, like, will she be okay?" "Oh, yeah." He nodded. "We're just going through some things." "Oh, Meera said the store is going bankrupt, too." I winced as soon as the words were out of my mouth. "Yeah." Owen ran a hand through his hair. "That's part of it, although I don't think Jim is going to let that happen. Meera's more upset about..." He sighed. "Has Meera told you about her, appointments?" No. "Well, we've been trying to get pregnant for years. Long, painful years. It's just so goddamn important for her to have a baby. And you know what she blames? Me for our problems." He walked around the room, staring at the pictures, not really talking to me anymore. I understand why it's important to her, but I don't understand the obsession with it, you know? Because she's the last one in her family? Because she's the last McCaskey on the planet? I mean, does she even realize that our baby wouldn't be a McCaskey? He'd be a Daly. I'll tell you, Sam, never marry a woman with a crazy father and 4 dead uncles. They develop these obsessions with lineage and 4 dead uncles? What? Oh, yeah, the famous ones. You know, the 4 brothers who died in the Drisking mines? Well, that only left her dad, and her parents were only able to conceive her, which leaves her as the last McCaskey and hope for the family line. So, of course, you see how this is all my fault. I looked at him blankly and he sighed. "I'm sorry, kid. These aren't your problems, and they're way over your pay grade anyway. I'm just very stressed out these days. Our fertility issues and Meera's absolute abhorrence to our only other option, it's..." But how did they die? I was desperate to talk about anything else, and the story of Meera's uncles interested me. "The McCaskey boys? I don't really know. They died on the mountain somewhere." "Oh, well, have you heard of the Skinned Men?" "Skinned Men? Yeah, I don't think so. What about Borrasca?" Owen Daly squeezed his eyes shut and pushed in on his temples with his fingers. "What? What does Borrasca have to do with anything?" "Owen?" Meera's voice squeaked from the doorway. "Oh, baby, are you okay? Sam called the house. I want to do it." "You do?" Owen asked dubiously. I called him. His eyes flicked over to me and I immediately looked away. Another conversation I didn't want to be a part of. "Sam, why don't you take off for the day? Meera and I will handle things here." Okay," I mumbled and bolted for the door. Once I was in my car and backing away, I saw Kyle. "Dude, fucking weird shit is going down in this town." "What happened? I can't explain it over the phone." "Where are you at?" "I'm at Kimber's. Are you off work?" "Yeah, I'm coming to get you." By at Kimber's, Kyle meant sitting on the curb in front of the house, kicked off of the property again. When I pulled up, Kimber came out and met us at the curb. "I'm so sorry, Kyle," she said. "She's really upset today. She wouldn't even let me leave the house to sit with you." "It's okay," he said. "Don't worry about me. I just want to make sure you and your mom are okay." "We're okay, and my dad will be home soon. Text us when he gets home and we'll come get you," I said. "I wish I could. I'm babysitting tonight until 7:30. Maybe after that?" "Sure." Kyle and Kimber hugged goodbye, and then Kimber rushed to her house as something crashed inside. "So what's going on?" Kyle asked, taking a drink of warm Dr. Pepper sitting in my cup holder. "You're still wearing your apron, you know." "Meera had a breakdown," I said, peeling it off. "Really? What happened?" I told Kyle the full story, giving particular attention to the 4 uncles. "Yeah, the McCaskeys. I've heard of them. Didn't know Meera was one, though. I thought they were all dead." "Yeah, she's the last one. So, like, do you think the McCaskey deaths have anything to do with the other disappearances?" It had been a while since I'd mentioned anything about Borrasca, and Kyle choked a little on the Dr. Pepper. I don't know, man. I mean, maybe if the disappearances started around the same time, how can we find that out? Maybe the cops? There have to be police reports." "Okay, but what if I couldn't ask my dad?" Kyle shook his head. "I don't know then." What about, like, records, the historical society people, maybe? Oh yeah, he said, nodding. We can try them. They're over on 2nd. They share an office with Drisking Arts and Antiques. I made a U-turn and started back toward town. Hey, why are we doing this? I'd known the question was coming. I'd hoped to have more answers myself before I had to give him one. Just Whitney was all I could say. Kyle didn't ask anything more. The Historic Preservation Society of Drisking was at the back of the building. We had to walk through the antiquity shop as the owner, Mr. Dranger, eyed us warily. At the end of the short hallway, we found a small room with 2 desks pushed together. One was empty and the other was stacked high with books and folders of loose paper. We could hear someone typing behind the stacks. I cleared my throat. Hello? A small woman popped up from behind the desk. I recognized her as the same woman who had given us the lecture in 5th grade. Hello, how can I help you boys? She asked, walking out to greet us. Yeah, I have a few questions for you about Drisking's history, I guess. Oh, great. Is this for an end-of-the-year report? Have a seat, boys. She gestured to the empty chair sitting behind the other desk. I nodded at Kyle, and he sat down, looking uneasy. Yeah, it's for an essay we have to write. Hey, I think you gave a lecture to us like 7 years ago at school. Oh yes, I give that lecture every year with Mr. Prescott, she smiled. Yeah, it was you, and one other guy too, a bald guy, Kyle said, shifting uncomfortably in the wooden chair. Yeah, that was my fiancé, Wyatt Dowding. He passed several years ago. Oh, Kyle said. So, Miss Scanlon. But you can call me Catherine, she said. Catherine, I tried. I hated calling adults by their first names. We want to know about the McCaskey kids. Oh, Catherine said, shaking her head. A dark part of history there, but still history nonetheless. Yeah, so when did that happen? And how did they die? Kyle added. Well, they didn't die. I mean, they certainly perished in the mines, but their bodies were never recovered, so we don't know how to answer that. I would think dehydration, starvation, and exhaustion killed them within the days of getting lost down there. And to your second question, that was 1953, I believe. And the mines closed that year? Well, actually, the mines officially closed the year after. There was a legal spat between the city and the Prescott family who wanted to leave the mines open until the bodies were found. The city won and the mines were condemned. Wait, why did the Prescotts care? Don't you want to write this down? Catherine asked. Kyle tapped his head twice with his finger. Catherine shrugged and continued. Well, the Prescott and the McCaskey family were closely related. Tom Prescott was paying teams of unemployed miners to go down into the mines and search for the bodies. The city had had enough of it. The mountain was unstable and they didn't want any more deaths. The mines had been abandoned for years and were structurally unsafe. After the city banned the recovery teams from the mines, members of the Prescott family decided to go down there themselves. Finally, the city had had enough and the mines eventually collapsed. With bombs? Kyle asked. Well, with explosives. And that's what led to the incident. By this time, the mines had been unprofitable for a few years, and the city was quite broke. They hired a less than reputable company to collapse the mines and, well, when they set off the explosives, they accidentally broke into Drisking's water table. The city went into debt trying to purify the water of silt and iron ore. It wasn't until 2 years later that things started getting better, thanks to the Prescotts who truly did revitalize Drisking. Kyle's phone chirped and he pulled it out of his pocket. It's Kimber. She wants us to come over. Okay, thanks, Miss Scanlon. Catherine. Sure, if you have any other questions, feel free to come by. We're almost always open during the day. Oh, or you can email me. She dug into her jacket pocket and pulled out a loose business card. It was creased and had a dusty smudge on it. Thanks. So what do you think? Kyle asked when we got in the car. I don't know. It's weird, isn't it? Why would the Prescotts give a shit if the town suffers after they refused to help him find their family and were actively working against them? Maybe they forgave and forgot, Kyle shrugged. Does Jimmy Prescott seem like a guy to forgive and forget to you? Ugh, no. And his dad is even worse.